Hey, it's time for an Ask Anything mailbag. No questions off limits. And I know the Dolphins are on the bye, but that's all right. We've still got plenty of pressing questions, and we're going to dive into them next. So let's knock them out. We start with a super chat question. Shout out to JB. Appreciate the love, my friend. And your question is, using that hashtag Dolphins, if the Dolphins can get things together during the bye week, you think they can win the rest of their games? Wow. The rest of their games. That would be a tall ask. And I have done some thinking on this because if you remember my Chiefs preview or my preview before the game against the Chiefs, I thought the Dolphins would win that game. Obviously, they did not. But I predicted a 13-4 record for this Dolphins team. Now, when you look at the remaining schedule, there are some tough games on there. The Jets, I don't know what to make of them. Offense is terrible, defense is good. But you look at the left side between weeks 11 through 14, I think you can chalk up W's for all of those. I'm feeling confident. Now, where it gets really tough are those last three games. I love that both the Cowboys and Bills are at home because we know how good the Dolphins have been at Hard Rock Stadium, 16-2 in their last 18. But that tough one on the road against the Ravens. So I'm not calling that an L by any means. I'm just saying that Ravens have looked really good as one of the best teams in the AFC. Plus, you're on the road there. But I still feel good about that 13-4 record prediction despite losing to the Chiefs and needing to win all but one of their next games, of the rest of their games after the bye week. And so I'll go with that. I'll stick with 13-4. Like you mentioned, the team's getting really healthy, and they have a lot of their weapons returning after the bye week. This is from Himothy. Hi, Himothy. Shalamet. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Only way the Dolphins win a playoff game is if they get home field advantage. Well, that's a declarative statement on our Ask Anything mailbag, and that's okay. Here are my thoughts. Obviously, home field advantage would be ideal. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. So let's go ahead and take it a step further, not just winning a playoff game, but how about a Super Bowl, if you will? And I think home field advantage would help with that. If they can get to 13-4, I don't know if that would bode for a first-round bye and home field advantage all the way throughout, but it certainly would give them a chance, depending on what happens with Kansas City and the Baltimore Ravens, and really the rest of the AFC, because the AFC is loaded. Now, I like their chances at home, of course, 16-2 in their last 18 games at Hard Rock Stadium, like I mentioned, but I don't doubt this team's ability to go on the road and earn a playoff win. It's tough to win on the road. It's tough to win on the road in the playoffs, but if anyone can do it, it's the Miami Dolphins. I believe in them. But I ask you, what are the odds the Dolphins win the division? Scale it for me, 1 through 100. You're 100% sure they'll win the division? Type 100 in there. I'm feeling pretty close to 100% sure, but I want to hear from you. Chad Jones has made his way into the chat and the Ask Anything mailbag. Shout out to an Aqua Club member, Chad Jones. Appreciate you tuning in to this edition. And the question is, with the offense down a little, you think they should spread the ball to different receivers? Very interesting discussion here. In fact, we had a discussion yesterday about who will emerge as that viable third option for Tua Tagovailoa in the passing game, because at times this season, that's been a weakness of the offense. You take away Tyreek Hill, and you take away Jaylen Waddle. Who's that third guy? Both Mostert and Achane have proven the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, but in that third receiver spot, I've seen some improvements and some progress from Cedric Wilson. Braxton Berrios is the guy that gets a lot of love. He's a fan favorite, the punt returner and everything, but he has struggled kind of getting off jams and hasn't necessarily been able to get open. Durham Smythe, the guy that you might think could get more involved in the passing game. And like we talked about earlier, maybe it's Chase Claypool. There are a lot of options out there for who can step up to be additional options in the passing game for Tua Tagovailoa. And so he's not just, honing in on just Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle. So I like what I've seen out of Cedric Wilson, and at times against Kansas City, he was open and creating that separation, but Tua was unable to get him the ball. Braxton Berrios, I want to see a little bit more out of him, although I love his role as kind of that energizer bunny, kind of that glue guy, and a guy that can play special teams as well. And Chase Claypool, maybe we see the Chase Claypool of old, and he becomes that viable third option. Want to thank Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. I love Prize Picks. There's no other way to put it. It's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It is awesome, and it's really easy to use as well. You simply pick more or less on a player's projected stat, and that's when the fun begins because you're not competing against a survivor pool of 50,000 people or a bunch of experts and a bunch of sharps. No, you're just going against the projections and the projected stats. And new this year, with basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, which is a league that was created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports. So let's say, for example, I want to go with LeBron James and Tyreek Hill at a 10.5 combo of three-pointers made and receptions. I'll pick more on that. You got the Cheetah, you got the King James. You have a lot of fun, but you get the idea. We're doing a little basketball, a little bit of football, but that is new with Prize Picks. They always got new stuff cooking up because they're the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform. So don't waste any time. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and start your account today. For being a Dolphins fan, we've got a $100 deposit match for you at prizepicks.com/CLNS. We always make it easy on you. We put that link in the chat as well as the description of today's video. But one more time, just in case. Just want to make sure you're listening. prizepicks.com/CLNS. Couple more questions to get to from Rooski237. Using that hashtag Dolphins. When will you do a way too early mock draft for Miami? Should the Dolphins draft a wide receiver like Xavier Worthy or something else? Very good question. It's never too early to start talking about mock drafts. I'm not going to get too crazy and get into the second or third rounds. And here's an interesting name for you. And I don't know if he'll fall this far because ideally the Dolphins will be picking in the latter half of the draft and not have an early pick. But Brock Bowers, the tight end out of Georgia, he actually got injured, so I'm not sure how that will impact his draft stock. And like I said, he's probably maybe a top 10 pick, maybe somewhere between 10 and 15. So I don't think the Dolphins will be picking that close to the top of the draft. But if they are, Brock Bowers would be an awesome weapon to add. But perhaps you think that the Dolphins will add a little depth to the offense, maybe go offensive or defensive line in that first round. But we'll get some mock draft stuff going. But that's my way too early mock draft to keep your eye on for the Miami Dolphins. From the Chef Jew, what's happening? Love this question here. Do you believe that we will have any Pro Bowlers at the end of the season? I sure do. I think that list could be lengthy. I mean, in my opinion, all the Dolphins are Pro Bowlers. But for sure, I know he hasn't played a lot of games yet, but with the name and the resume of the past, starting on the defensive side, if Jalen Ramsey continues to make the impact that he has, I think he'll be named to a Pro Bowl. Javon Holland, like we talked about, top-ranked safety on Pro Football Focus. Bradley Chubb certainly playing at a Pro Bowl level with the production he's had. Sacks in 4 consecutive games as well as 4 forced fumbles to lead the NFL. So Bradley Chubb is going to be on there defensively. And maybe even Zach Zealer and Christian Wilkins on the interior defensive line. They've played really well. Now, there's a lot of big names on that go in as the defensive linemen, but, they at least would be up for a discussion, in my opinion. Then on offense, who am I kidding? Tua at times has played like an MVP. Tyreek Hill has put up MVP-type numbers. And Raheem Mostert, as in his total touchdowns, you can't leave him off the Pro Bowl squad. He's been incredible as well. And if Achane gets back and has the same impact that he had in the first 4 games of his career, I think he's at a Pro Bowl level as well. From Christopher, why can't Tua and Connor seem to get on the same page with these snaps? Yes, probably should have gotten to this earlier. My apologies, but it kind of is an elephant in the room, if you will. I went back and watched that final snap on the fourth down play. I don't want to exaggerate, but 100,000 times from every possible angle. And I don't want this to turn into a picking side thing, if it's Tua's fault, if it's Connor Williams' fault, because I do think it's behind them. But I think Tua's got to make that catch. I don't think it was that bad of a snap. My humble opinion, I'm just one person. But again, here we are midway through the following week. Dolphins are on a bye week. It doesn't really matter. And I think it was, in fact, on Tua. But it's not the first time they've had some center quarterback exchange problems. They had a few in the first couple of weeks as well. I think it's a work in progress as well. And it's coming along. I'm not too worried about it. But be honest with me, and shout out to Jeremy Chuggs for this one, our producer today on the ones and twos. He wants to play the blame game, so why not? It's a hypothetical situation. We've turned the page anyways, but just for good measure. Who do you blame for the fumbled snap against the Chiefs on fourth down? Type T for Tua or C for Connor Williams. But remember, we're a team. We're a team no matter what. So we're moving on. From NY Baseball Guy, how about moving Williams to left guard and Eichenberg at center? I don't think it's the worst idea I've ever heard, although I read the comments. I read all around the Dolphins community, message boards, whatever it may be, try to have my pulse on everything that's happening with the Aqua and Orange, and vast majority of people do not like Liam Eichenberg. I mean, I hate to say it that way, and it sounds a little bit personal, but he just has not played very well. He's a little bit better against Kansas City, but at a time this year, I think it was following the Buffalo game, he was the lowest graded offensive lineman on Pro Football Focus. And I keep bringing up Pro Football Focus, especially as it relates to offensive and defensive line play, because they really do take a look at the tape and measure more than just what meets the eye statistically speaking. And Eichenberg just hasn't really been good. I don't think you want to make a living with Eichenberg as your center. So that's my thoughts on that. From Sherry May, what's happening, Sherry May? When is Craycraft expected to return? Very good question. I took some notes on this just in case I was asked, because it's not an answer that just is as simple as, oh, he's coming back for the next game. Remember, when you go on IR, that stands for injured reserve, you're taken off the 53-man roster, but when you return to practice, like River Craycraft has, you have a 21-day window to be then added back to the 53-man roster. And River Craycraft has been practicing for 2 weeks now, so that 21-day window is condensing. There's only a week left. So it's one of those something's got to give conversations, and I do believe, and based on Mike McDaniel's comments, I do believe we're going to be, I'll use his words, in fact, sooner rather than later. That's what Mike McDaniel said about it. But that window, that 21-day window, only has a week left. So, with the bye week, there's time, but you want to bring back River Craycraft to the active roster so that he can, again, be a part of this wide receiver room and add that depth to the wide receiver room. So he's been practicing for 2 weeks now, and I think sooner rather than later is the best way to answer that. From Fins Fan for Life, I wish the Dolphins would have kept Gesicki. Interesting, because we see him with the Patriots now, and I think it was ironic he caught a game-winning touchdown a couple weeks ago, maybe against Buffalo. Yes, it was against Buffalo. Started doing the gritty, one of the worst gritties you will see, but that's neither here nor there. I think Durham Smythe has played well as a tight end. And then something that gets overlooked a little bit, Julian Hill, the backup tight end, has been a really good run-blocking tight end for this Dolphins team. And so, again, it's not something that's going to show up in the stats all the time, but the way Julian Hill has blocked from the tight end position has been a value add for this offense. So that's fine. I mean, I don't hate that opinion, but I certainly don't share it. From JB, at this point in the season, how do you see the final AFC standings playing out? Very interesting. Glad you asked, because I looked up the odds to this earlier today, and the Dolphins are certainly the favorite, right around minus 200, not quite even, plus 200, not quite even money, but close to it. And right behind them are the Buffalo Bills at 225, 250, depending on which sports book you're doing your shopping at. But the point being, Buffalo and Miami, I think, have established themselves as the two-team race for the AFC East title. And I know Buffalo won the head-to-head, but Buffalo's played a lot of nationally televised games, and so you're able to watch Buffalo a lot. And I just don't think they are the Bills of years past. I think the window to win for Buffalo has come and gone. And yeah, Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. He's one of the best quarterbacks and an impact player, of course, does things that nobody else can do type of thing. But I don't see Buffalo as the team to beat in the AFC East. I think it's Miami, and the odds would reflect that as well. Obviously, the Patriots are a dumpster fire, and the Jets are just kind of the Jets, I guess. Terrible offense and a good defense. And I know Aaron Rodgers is trying to come back sooner rather than later from that Achilles injury, but you still got to have somebody to block for him. The offensive line for the Jets is just not good, and that's how Rodgers got hurt in the first place. So best way I think I can answer that question is I think it'll be almost as it stands right now. Dolphins first, followed by the Bills, Jets, and then the Patriots at the bottom. All right, never miss a moment. Wall-to-wall coverage, one-stop shop for all things Dolphins. That's what it's all about at Dolphins Today. Like I mentioned earlier, we're experiencing all kinds of growth, which is awesome, a testament to each and every one of you out there. So shout out to all of our new subscribers that have helped us reach that 50K goal. 50,000 subscribers, largest Dolphins YouTube community. And that's what we are, community, a family, a place to get your Dolphins news, a place to get your Dolphins rumors, a place to watch the games, commemorate with each and every one of us. And that's what it's all about. Love you guys, always have, always will. Go Dolphins forever. And thanks for subscribing to the channel.